I think the location is a really important part. So I've done it in big churches, I've done it in very small churches, I've done it in a modern church. And it works, and the play and the style translates. But I'll be honest, there is something in the larger, more epic venues that enhances the story that we're telling. When we did it in Cambridge, we did this wonderful church in a United Reformed church called Emmanuel, if anyone's ever been to Cambridge. And it's a lovely church, but it is more intimate. It's epic in some way, but it's much more modern in feel. Whereas compared when doing it in Nottingham St Mary's, which is this vast, beautiful building that in some way amplifies the epicness of the story we're telling. You could do it in a church hall, but yes, something fundamental I think would be missing. Some people have always been a bit surprised that I've never used a set. And I say, well, when you've got this wonderful ancient building, what better set could there be? And to have pillars lit in a certain way, to have shadows cast in a certain way. There's this amazing moment where Jesus' cross is being brought down, and it's backlit. And as the cross is being brought down, these vast shadows are being cast over the roof of the building. And you just kind of think, wow, why do you need a set? Yeah, so there is something about this ancient building itself that does the job for you. I guess the question is, when do you use music? Why would you use music at that point rather than not use music at that point? And I think music is always done to enhance or create an emotional state. You use music because you want the audience to feel something, even if it's on a subtle, almost quite manipulative sense. So they're not consciously aware that it's going there. You're trying to create an emotional state for them. And I think the decision not to use music is because there is sufficient scope with what's happening that it's not warranted, that it would potentially be a distraction, or it would take away from the what it is you're trying to communicate. So, for example, in the Garden of Gethsemane scene, with Simon's amazing soliloquy, we intentionally, that was completely barren and devoid of music, because actually the absence of music, that the absence of music emphasizes Jesus' aloneness. If you suddenly bring something in, because the music became almost like a character in and of itself, the fact that he's completely alone, there is nothing there, emphasizes the silence that he is feeling himself. So I think you have to be careful. When do you want music, and what is it you're trying to add or take away? And I think because I'm a massive cinema fan, I'm an avid lover of film. I've kind of got a natural instinct as to when music's needed, when music isn't needed. And at times I've tried, thought, does that need music there? And occasionally I've tried it. I thought, no, actually, it adds something that and takes it away. I don't think I've ever intentionally thought of the space itself and the practical considerations of the space impacting on the dialogue, actually. I guess there is an element of it, but I think for me it's always come down from vision. It's always been vision and artistic style first, and technicalities kind of slotted in. I mean, there are times the style itself, actually, I think that we've developed does work quite well in the space because it's intentionally weighted. That means that actually it's naturally slowed down anyway. One thing I would say is slightly on a tangent. I think the minute I was very clear everyone needed to be mic'd, because you're in a cathedral for two reasons. A, not everyone is skilled enough to project vocally in a cathedral or a large church. And B, if some people are mic'd, then everyone should be mic'd. When we did it the first time in Newark, we didn't have enough money for mics. So those who were strong enough to project didn't have, and everyone else did. But actually it just looks really horrible because there's a discrepancy. But what I always say to actors is all the microphone will do is the microphone will amplify how you're already speaking. So if you're mumbling and speaking quietly, then all the microphone will do is will amplify your kind of quiet mumble. Doesn't mean you can suddenly not be articulate. No, I never intentionally made it a decision that I'm not going to include bad language, but it just never felt necessary or appropriate. I don't think I would have any issue with swearing in church productions per se. I probably would have an issue with swearing in a passion play. if you are doing a passion play from a particular social context or a particular part of, I don't know, from a particular perspective of the country where actually swearing is much more part of the vernacular of the language, then actually that might be quite appropriate. We put, I think it was about end of August, we put an appeal out for actors. And we put posters up and flyers up in various places. But I would say, especially with the Nottingham Passion, the bulk of the work came through social media, through targeting people that I knew, targeting local groups, targeting local churches, putting an appeal out for auditions. We had our auditions in November, and then the actual marketing for the for tickets being on sale took place basically from the new year, from January onwards. And again, the majority of it was all done via social media. I don't think print media is dead at all. And certainly here in Hereford, which is a very different context, print media is by far not dead. But the way we're going is it's the social media push. That's what sells more than anything else. Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever it's called now, Instagram, TikTok, email. The idea of people going along, picking up a flyer and think, oh, I'll go see that show. I don't think that works anymore. I don't think that really translates in the same way. In Newark, what really worked was banners, actually. Banners outside the church, banners on main crossings of roads. But I think it's social media. That's where certainly the theatre industry is heading. And I think that's where the churches are heading as well. I'm always slightly wary about marketing it as an adult nativity. That feels like it's attracting a very different. We did have the idea when we were doing it in. We did have the idea when we were doing it in Cambridge of having a marketing strategy, just white A4 posters around saying "Fancy more passion in your life?" CambridgePassion.co.uk. That probably wouldn't have been the best thing. Actually, I think the demographics were the same. We certainly didn't get more children for the nativity than we did the passion. And that's not to say we didn't welcome children, but actually we didn't shy away from, we didn't do the, it wasn't a fluffy tinselly nativity. It was, we finished, the penultimate scene was the slaughter of the innocents, which is, I don't think I've ever seen a school nativity that does that. We were very, very clear to be quite biblical and emphasize that bit. So I think, again, the nativity is always sold out. Actually, it's always been as successful as the Passion, with similar audiences, I guess. Yeah, that's a really good question, though. I'm trying to think if there has ever been any distinction, but I don't think there has. I think the only challenge with using the script I've got is that it's so connected to the music and to the style. I'm not sure how well it would work if you put it in an entirely different way, an entirely different context, if that makes sense. I think it's a bit like if you see a West End show, actually Les Miserables, when it's divorced from the set and from the music, you can't take one element out and still have the show, if that makes sense. So I think by all means you're very welcome to have it, but I do think there's something about writing, not necessarily for the context you're in, but writing that in a way that's true for you. Because something like this, which is so personal, it's so much of you that if it's not coming from you, then it feels a bit, it feels like you're putting a square peg in a round hole.